I think one of the first things that people often do is they think, when they're thinking about video, they're thinking visual. And so really a good video starts with a good script. So when I'm producing a video, and in fact, any of my peers, we start with what's the message? What's the thing we want to say? And so we're working on the words first. You know, what are the key messages that you intend your audience to consume or that you want them to know? And you worry about what the pictures are going to be afterwards. So often people think media first, or they think visual first when they're thinking about video. And that will make the job really complicated, because it's easy. I mean, these days there's so many different places to source great pictures and great video, or go shoot your own. But if you don't have the structure or the blueprint for that, you can just get lost on the picture side of video and never get anything produced. So really the first mistake is, as I say, thinking visual and not thinking about the story or the soundtrack. And that's how every film and every professional piece of work you've seen that's video, people write the words, they write the story first, and then they figure out what the pictures are going to be. So the other one that often, especially like if you're in the marketing business or instructional or coaching, is that people forget that video is a heart medium, not a head medium. So in other words, it works really well at, pushing emotional buttons or reaching people on an emotional level. And if you put together something that's intended to be instructional, or you're a coach, or trying to get information across to people, if it's too information heavy, or in fact is all information and there's no emotional connection, people won't finish watching what it is you spend all of those hours creating. So video is more about communicating on an emotional level than a factual level. If you've got a lot of factual information, you need an ebook, you need a brochure, you need print material to accompany the video. But video needs to be first and foremost. I mean, that's when you watch a film. I mean, how is it reaching you? It's reaching you on an emotional level. I think the other thing that that helps in here from a marketing standpoint is, in order to do that, because I mean, you don't necessarily want to make people cry, but what you need to think about is how can you entertain while you inform or communicate? There's got to be some fun in what you put together. So tell some stories, anecdotes. If you can make people laugh, that's great too. But basically think that you're really in the entertainment business as much as you are in the information business. The other two mistakes really that are big, these are the things that I think, are most common. There's lots of mistakes obviously, but is making videos more complicated than they really need to be. Because video is a really sophisticated medium, and you see this when amateurs get their hands on things like PowerPoint. They use every one of the visual transitions that's available. And of course, the same thing is true with any video production. I mean, there's all kinds of titling tools, and there's special effects, and, there's green screen and all of this kind of stuff. And really, especially if you're starting out, is just keep it simple. When this comes from filmmaking particularly, but if you're going to do something, interesting on the screen, what is motivating that technical trick? Like, why would you use a particular visual transition? Why would you use stars, as opposed to a fade? Why would you need a green screen if but so everything that you're doing, it's like, don't go looking for technical gadgets and tricks that are going to complicate your production. If you've got a good script and you've figured out your story and what it is you want to say, that should dictate the choices you make technically. And you should always really be fighting to keep it simple, because then it'll cost you less, it'll take less time to produce, and frankly will be oftentimes more engaging. Things that get overly complicated, and ad agencies will do this with video ads, is, I mean, if somebody says, wow, the cinematography was great, it's probably a bad film. The technology should be invisible. And then, of course, the simplest thing, and I'm bad for this myself, is asking for help. You'd be surprised how fast people will come to your rescue when you say, I'm having a problem and I need your help. because there's lots of talented people on the planet in the video industry, and often they're underemployed. And so an opportunity to show off what they can do, really, you'd be surprised. The film industry and the people who are in it are, they're team players and they love to give. And so, reach out. Just simply ask for help, and you'll be surprised how much you'll get. So then you're not struggling to try and do something you've never done before. I'm going to take one step back here, and that is X factors, which I think is really an interesting question. And this is the stuff that's kind of like the secret sauce in the film industry, and that is that stories sell. And so that no matter what it is you're trying to communicate, you've got to find anecdotes or stories to put into it or to wrap around the information that you want to put forward. And that will make an interesting video. It also makes an interesting ebook. But and then the really big one is great audio is actually the secret to great video. You'll put up with bad picture quality as long as there's good sound. But it doesn't matter how great the pictures are. If the sound quality is poor, you won't tolerate it. You'll change channels. You'll throw the DVD out because you can't hear what the actors are saying or what the performers are saying. So sound is critically important. The quality of sound, which of course is, again, your script, is critically important to a great video. So you can have, something as simple as a PowerPoint and get your message across as long as your soundtrack is good. So a good microphone also, of course, is important. And then planning, just like building a house, imagine building a house without a blueprint. So the short form to that is specificity equals success. The more specific you can be about what it is you want to do, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. And then the last thing here in the X factors, technology is a trap. There are way too many gadgets in our business, way too many special effects, hundreds of different cameras and microphones, and you can just get lost in that, and lots of people do. But keep it simple. So those are the four kind of X factors. Success in the industry, or success with video, has a lot more to do with good planning and developing skills. These days, people are actually producing high-end commercials just using an iPhone, just to prove a point. So it can be done with something as simple as the laptop you've got and nothing more. So I want to talk a little about, and I think hopefully people find this interesting, is the difference between why you would choose to do it yourself versus for you service. Oftentimes, it's just simply, if you go to places like Upwork or Fiverr, you'll find some very talented people who will write a script for you, who will do graphics for you. If you don't have an expertise as a writer, as a shooter, as an editor, oftentimes you are better off to simply, go to Upwork or Elance or Fiverr and shop around, and you'll be surprised how really the question is, what's your time worth? As an example, I was working on a website and we were having trouble with a particularly nasty piece of programming, and I posted the job. And believe it or not, I found a guy in Venezuela who was an expert in that particular piece of software. It took him an hour and a half. He charged $16.50 an hour. It cost me $32 to have the problem solved that I had wasted 2 days on. So that's when you, if you don't know and you're spending a tremendous amount of time on things that shouldn't really take that long, right, it's time to hire somebody else. And really, so it's based on how much is your time worth. Right. Because really, you could be doing other things more effectively, marketing your own business, writing new scripts, working with clients when you're trying to produce something that you have no skill with. Are your do-it-yourself videos meeting your own standards? If you try to do it yourself and you put the thing together and you realize that you really wouldn't want to put your name on it, that don't like the way it looks, you realize you just haven't done a good job. It's probably time to bring in some other people to help you get it done. I mean, otherwise, you're going to hurt your company image or your brand by delivering, substandard video. When it comes to video, everyone is an expert. Anybody in North America has been, subject to, witness to the world's best television all their life. You're watching Miami CSI, 45 minutes of television rolls by. You've just watched over $1 million worth of product roll past you.
Right.
So to start trying to compare and people will compare your product to that high-end broadcast stuff. So all the more reason to keep it simple, because then it can look good if it's simple. But also, if you try it yourself and you realize your graphics don't look so good, your audio doesn't sound so great, it's probably time to get some help. So yes, if you paid for what you produced, would you be happy? That's the sort of the last question. If you put your own video together, if you produced a 2-minute video and you look at this thing and you thought, well, if I had spent $2,000 to get this, would I think that I'd gotten my money's worth? So if you're not producing to your own standards, time to get help. Here's some help. There are really at least 12 different ways to distribute your video. And the Video Marketer's Cheat Sheet outlines, and very briefly, those 12 different distribution channels. You want to maximize or get leverage out of anything you produce. And so, everywhere you go now, there are digital displays. In coffee shops, at the airport, the doctor's office, of course, websites, PowerPoints. So this is hopefully just a helpful little reminder of the various places that you could get your video shown, along with the obvious, which of course is your website, YouTube, and Facebook.